Hello and welcome to Business Today Television. I'm Siddharth Zarabi, live from the India Today Group studio at the World Economic Forum in Davos. And with me, a favorite guest of mine, Punit Renjen, the Global CEO Emeritus of Deloitte. That's the thing that's changed about him from last year. Welcome to the show, Punit.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
The sun is out.
Yes.
It's a much better day. But last year, when Punit was on the same hot seat, there was a lot of optimism, and he had spoken about the optimism post-COVID across the globe and India. But Punit, one of the headlines over the last 2-3 days, and you must have been meeting a lot of people, but there are two different surveys, and they could just simply be captioned as from record optimism to a lot of record pessimism. What's changed?
I'm more optimistic than that. I would say from
I'm glad you are. Most Indians are.
Right. From record optimism to caution. I would use the word caution rather than pessimism. And listen, the war in Ukraine, Russia's aggression against Ukraine, the high inflation, supply chain issues are causing concern for many of our clients, and there is caution.
Okay. And that caution is about what? Growth, consumer demand, or continuing supply side pressures and cost pressures?
I think all of the above, but I think it's transitory. I'm optimistic that 2024 is going to be, at the end of 2023 or 2024 is going to be a really good year. We are at the beginning of a 15-year secular trend enabled by technology, growth trend. And I think that is going to lead to a tremendous amount of growth. And then, of course, what is happening in India is remarkable. I've said this before, I think this is India's century. And I finally believe that the tangibles are manifesting, but the intangibles are manifesting. Every conversation with the Indian diaspora that I've had has a certain level of real optimism about India.
Well, optimism does stay, and I think it's in our core to be optimistic. I'll come up, take the tangible versus intangible point subsequently, but I just want to pick up this point where you said 15-year sort of up cycle driven by technology. What exactly in technology is going to do that? And obviously, what you must also mean is that it's going to help us ride out the downturn.
It will modulate the downturn. So digitization, as an example, or cloud, or AI robotics are all examples of how technology is enabling more efficiency and effectiveness in the way that business is conducted. There has been more digitization in the last 2 to 3 years than in the last 10, and I anticipate even more. And so I think that is what will fuel growth over the next number of years. Some of the challenges that came to great relief during COVID, climate as for instance, it's a global challenge that we must address, but that challenge comes with opportunities. Investments in green energy, investments in nature-based solutions, which, by the way, India can lead on.
Yeah, and a lot of that is happening. During my conversations with some CEOs, one of the points that has come up, and you're the best person to answer this, the return on investment in new technologies. There is a bit of opinion that they really haven't delivered the kind of returns at a corporate level that CEOs would have wanted. Why is that? And in fact, do you even agree with that?
No, I don't agree with that. I think you've got to look at a time horizon.
Okay.
So, maybe some of these technologies will take, some of these technologies will take time to become more mainstream, adopted, and I think the returns will be there.
Let's come back to the point that you just spoke about with respect to India. A year of our outperformance, 2022 after COVID. What is 2023 looking like?
Listen, I mean, nobody can say with any kind of precision, but I think over the long haul, this is India's century. All the things are lining up tangibly. I think 6-7% growth is easily attainable, but I think we should aspire in India for 8-9-10% growth. And in 10-15 years, the country will be transformed.
just like China was in the 80s and the 90s. Okay, I'm glad you said that. One of the reasons for China's structural change and how it broke away from India and kind of has become the global manufacturing powerhouse is the way they focused on enabling industry and enterprise in the country. What are the structural changes that you feel are required for us to really live up to that promise that you speak about? We should never try and replicate what somebody else has done, because that is a losing. No, I don't think we are, but I think there are aspects that we must follow, and I'm going to get to that. There are some strengths that India has that China doesn't. The democratic tradition for 76 years, the demographic dividend. We are still a young, growing population. The English language skills that, and so these are all examples that are unique to India. Now, with that democratic tradition, with 36 states, you do get a certain level of coordination required. You can't mandate in a democratic country like you can in other systems. And so with those advantages come some challenges. I think the government is trying to address them. I've seen that. And I think they need to be addressed. There's one other point that I do want to make, and this is a self-serving comment, so I will say this. I'm on the US-India CEO Forum. This is a great opportunity for the US and India to collaborate, to work together. I think it's a once-in-a-decade type of opportunity, and I think we should seize it. Frankly, I've been hearing that throughout my professional career, but I somehow feel that something comes in the way between America and India. And there are people who, off the record, on the Indian side, speak about some of the frustrations that they have. The Americans look at our trade policies, and there are some points that come up. Is this even true? Has this potential partnership performed subpar? I would say that it hasn't performed to par. And so the opportunity is, I think the US and India are natural allies. Absolutely. Both democratic countries. I think a lot of people like myself that call both places home. And so I think this is a great opportunity. I really believe there is. And serving on that, and it's still early days, but Secretary of Commerce Raimondo and Secretary of Commerce and Commerce Minister in India, Piyush Goyal, I think are setting the tone. There is tremendous goodwill, and it is up to us now to come up with very tangible, specific areas where we can cooperate and really benefit from this alliance. How would you rate India's recent moves towards once again having bilateral conversations with several countries and also early trade pacts which are likely to sort of fructify into much larger trade deals? There's one that's been hanging for years with the United States, and I'm sure that must also be on the agenda of the council that you just spoke about. How much will India's new approach towards trade help in fulfilling those objectives? Well, listen, everybody, and I think the Foreign Minister Jaishankar said it best. Every country comes from a standpoint of appealing to their self-interest, and I think India absolutely should. Punit, your firm and you yourself has consulted with the best corporations in the country. You must be meeting a lot of people. Longer term, the same thing that we discussed last year in May, China plus one. I've been hearing China plus others this time round. There's a bit of a minor difference in that, but does India remain a long-term bet for not just US but other investors? Yes. And I don't like using the term China plus one. I think it is India's, there's some major mega trends that are happening. Supply chain reassessment, realignment is one of those trends. The energy transition is a second trend. What is happening with technology that I just talked about. There's some geopolitical trends and a realignment in terms of the world order that is happening as we speak. But on supply chains, India absolutely can be a destination, should be a destination. And do you feel enough is being done on the policy front within India? I think that we've made some really, really good initial steps, but there's more work to be done. Okay. Any sectors that you feel, and this is for the average sort of viewer who is watching you right now, that you feel are going to be
important for India and important for its people? Well, I think India should play the hand that it's been dealt. I think pharmaceuticals is for instance, manufacturing, technology manufacturing. Apple's recent building of facilities in Tamil Nadu are a good example. I mean, those are two nature-based solutions, climate answers. I was with Minister Vaishnav yesterday. Very impressive in terms of what India is doing with hydrogen, with solar and wind. Those are all examples of areas where India can and should invest. In a fragmented, or that may not be the right word, in a polity like ours, center and multiple states decision making that you referred to, do you think India can win the alternative energy, new energy game? It has to. I mean, for itself and for the rest of the world. Given India's prominence, rising prominence, the size of its population, it absolutely has to. And I think it is more challenging than other systems of governance, but the government is making an effort to try and coordinate, and I think that's really important. And you actually see it manifest even in Davos. You walk down the promenade, and this year versus last year, all the Indian states are clustered in one area of the promenade. Yeah, well, you could call it a mini India. Yeah. I want to ask you private conversations, which I don't expect you to reveal, but does this thing about too much of democracy ever come up when it comes to foreign investors and their perception about India? Oh, absolutely not. Okay, that's a bullet point answer. Punit, we started by me telling our viewers that from global CEO to global CEO Emeritus. And between our other conversations, there's been that change. Obviously, there's an announcement. Why don't you tell our viewers about what has changed for you personally and professionally? Well, I was with Deloitte for 36 years, and it has been my life's work. I think it's a great honor to be CEO Emeritus, but I think it just means that I'm old. You don't certainly look old. What lies ahead for you? Oh, exciting stuff, but I'm not going to tell you right now. But okay. I think it's going to involve India. I think it's going to involve giving back. It's also going to involve my home state of Oregon. But I will keep my hands in business, so something in that sphere as well that I'll be more prepared to talk about in about 6 to 8 weeks. But the economic bridge between Oregon and your home state of Haryana and your birth town of Hisar? Of Rohtak, actually. Oh, of Rohtak. Yes, yes. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. What's the equivalent for Rohtak in Oregon? Oh, well, Portland, Oregon is not that much bigger. Where I live is not that much bigger than Rohtak is. What I'm really focused on is climate and sustainability. That is an area, particularly nature-based answers that are community-led. I'm also very focused on health equity and skilling. So skilling and the new jobs, they apply to Oregon as they apply to Haryana or India. Well, that's the nature of the globalized world, and we'll look forward to 6 to 8 weeks later when you have more to tell us. But as I leave you today, I want you to once again tell those people who look up to you and say, here's someone who worked hard in India and then made it right to the top of a global organization. 36 years is an absolute lifetime. What would you tell them? I would just say that if you look at me, somebody like me from Rohtak, and if I can make it, anybody can make it. Hard work, a little bit of luck, and I think you can do it. And those are the Indian values, Punit, that make us proud about you. Thank you very much for the next phase of your life and whatever you do, and we'll keep tracking you. That was Punit Renjen, a person who I really admire, live with us here from Davos. If you've been, thank you very much for watching. We'll be back with more. Do stay tuned in.